Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ultimate Manifestation Podcast, a podcast that is geared towards helping you to manifest the life of your dreams. Now, first and foremost, if you see that title and it offends you a little bit, then that's actually that's a great thing. And the reason why I say that's a great thing, because we always have to pay attention to things that trigger us, because things that trigger us are things that we hadn't resolved yet. Okay? I used to be so worried about people worrying about me using certain types of languages and all that other stuff. And then it just kind of came down. This is how we talk. This is how we create emphasis, but it's not used, and I'm talking about the word fucking in the title, it's not used in a derogatory manner. It's used in a way to tell you that, okay, we need to take our lives and get it back on track, get back into alignment. And that's what truly matters, right? So with that being said, it's one of those things that it excites me, because when you look at it, it tells you, okay, your belief is either fucking you over or it's creating a life you love. And it's one or two things. It's not anything different. You know, for some it may be in the middle, but still, people know if they're living a life they love by how they feel moment to moment on a daily basis. And so what I want to step into right away is, let's just think about this, because this is going to do one or two things. This episode is going to do one or two things. It's going to upset you, and you're going to get pissed off, and you're going to shut it off like right about now because you don't want to listen to what I'm saying. Or it's going to make you think about your life and the potential that you have to realize what's out there, and that everything is working out in the greatest way possible for you, because of your belief, right? Because of your belief. It goes back to those quotes. And even in the scripture, as a man thinketh, so shall he be. You know, according to your faith, be it done unto you, as Jesus said in the Bible. And, you know, it just comes down to that. So, like I said, it's either going to piss you off or it's going to make you look really hard at your life. Not really hard, but really in depth. Because you don't have to look hard. That's straining, forcing. That does nothing for us. But we'll really take a deep look at our lives and see if we're living a life we truly love, right? And I can tell you right now that you are living a life you love if you could look at every single area and not change it. And here's what I mean by that. If you can look at every single area of your life and not change it, because you know your belief, your self-confidence, your self-talk, as we spoke about yesterday on the Love Your Vibe podcast, is taking you to an even greater level of existence, that's when you're completely grateful and appreciative of what life has brought you today through you, okay? I know some people might say, oh, well, I want like a such and such amount of money. It's a cop-out. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that money will solve all your problems, because in actuality, if you don't solve your problems within first, it's going to create more problems for you. And you can take that to the bank. No pun intended. You know, this is something that is so important for us to understand, that a big check, a large sum of money is not going to solve our emotional blockages. It's not going to solve our mental incapacities. You know, it's not going to solve that. When we solve those things first, then that's when you really want to start getting the money in. When you know that you're in control of your mind and your thoughts and what comes into your life, then you can start thinking about large sums of money, because then you'll know what to do with it. You won't all of a sudden panic, because I'll just be real with you. If you've ever had a large sum of money and you hadn't been ready to embrace it and work with it like you should, here's what tends to happen. You get scared of losing it all. And then 2, you get anxious because you're trying to figure out how to keep it. When in actuality, the enlightened state as it relates to money is 1, the God in you, the all that is the source. So that's just a symbol. The physical money is just a symbol. But God is the source. So that means if you lost it all, you could get it right back because although conditions may change, the source never does. So the source is your real wealth, which is the source is in you. Okay? So when you understand that, you're not in a position to where you are hell-bent on trying to figure out like how to keep your money or how to not lose it. Because true wealth comes from being able to circulate out and receive back in, right? And it's just that circulation. Money in, money out, money in, money out, money in, money out. But if you're not to that level of consciousness just yet, you experience fear. Okay? And so basically my point is lump sums of money do not solve issues. You solve your own issues first within. You build a wealth consciousness. You become aware, and then you receive the large sums of money without them overwhelming you. You've heard this before, but this is why so many people win the lottery and like 2-3 years later they're broke because their consciousness is not able to handle the amount of money that they have, so they have to spend it, or I like to say circulate it, to the point where they're at a level to where they're comfortable again. Because if you're not in conscious alignment with your soul and you've never had a large sum of money, it is going to give you headaches because that's what it does. It does that when you're not prepared to have as much as you need. I was reading the other day, actually yesterday, and something really, really just fascinating. This guy, Robert Anthony, I mentioned him on the other podcast. He was saying that if all the wealth in the world was distributed evenly, in a matter of 6 months to a year, the poor people would be poor, probably even worse off, and the wealthy people would be wealthy again. And he said something that made so much sense. And I know this is kind of like turning into like the money cure, but I'm on a track, so stay with me. But he said something so amazing. He says, the quote, "I'm not rich because I have money. I have money because I'm rich." I'm going to let that sink in and say that twice again. I'm not rich because I have money. I have money because I am rich, which means you are rich in consciousness. And when you're rich in consciousness, you know what happens? Money shows up effortlessly. See, there are things in life, and I always say this, you're supposed to win. Instinctively, you're programmed to win in your relationships, in your finances, in your career, in your friendships, in your mental capacity. You're programmed to win. The problem is the ego steps in with a baseball bat and starts knocking all that stuff out of the way, saying, oh, no, you don't. You're going to live in fear. You're not going to live in faith. You're not going to experience the love of life. You're going to just mess it all up because you're going to think too much, and the stuff you're going to think is going to pull you back down into mediocrity with everybody else because guess what? Egos love to create misery for other egos. And it's one of those things, if you've ever been on an enlightened path and you feel yourself raising your consciousness. What I mean by raising your consciousness, ultimately what that means is that you have embodied more of the divine love within you. And you're aware that everything is a part of life. Everything is you. You're all connected to this oneness. But it's interesting because if you're ever at, you're rising a rising level of consciousness, and you get around someone who's very egotistical. All of a sudden, you can tell that person, their ego is trying to draw your ego out. And don't mention if there's like multiple people who are egotistical. All of a sudden, you see your ego trying to come out to be approved, to be with these people, and to be on the same level as them. And all of a sudden, you're in a complaining fest. You're in a complainant fest. You're basically saying what's wrong with the world, as opposed to saying, man, the world is so exciting. I got so much going on for me. My life is so amazing. I just have so much to say. All of a sudden, you're saying, oh, the weather sucks. It always rains here, yada, yada, yada. It's too hot. I'm working too hard. I hate all the people at my job. And before you know it, you fell into that ditch of egoism, and you've thrown yourself out of alignment. But the truth of the matter is it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And so it took me 11 minutes to kind of tell you what happens when your ego basically fucks you over. And your ego is basically just tied into your belief, your self-belief, your dominant belief about life. We've said before, what you believe within is going to happen outside of you. What you believe about life is what's happening to you right now. If you're struggling, that means that you believe that you're supposed to struggle in life. When I found out I didn't have to struggle, it was like one of the most liberating days of my life. Because I didn't have to go through the hardship that the ego wants people to recognize and say, oh, they worked so hard and they put in so much blood, sweat, and tears. All that is BS. Yes, there is work to do, but a lot of the work is vibrational, emotional, mental. A lot of it is mental. If you can master your mind, aka master your belief, you will live a life that you love. And I promise you, it is amazing the way this stuff unfolds. I've done like 3 podcasts straight on it, but it's so important because if people can get it, if people can embrace it, their lives transform instantly, And it's the smallest subtle things that begin to happen that prove to yourself that this is working. Just take a look. And I'm not saying everybody is here, but let's use an example. Getting back to what's in the description and what I talked a little bit about earlier. 2 individuals grow up in the same house, have the same parents, same upbringing, same schools, same teachers. One turns out to be not only successful, yet fulfilled, and one goes to live a life of complete mediocrity. Okay? Think about that. All the same. For pretty much 18 plus years, all the same. But then one takes off and the other kind of falters, kind of just skates by. What's the difference? Easy. The difference is the one that succeeded and became fulfilled is the one who figured out that what they believe about themselves and about life is what was going to create the life that they desired. And trust me, this is the most valuable, valuable information you could ever have to transform your life. When I tell you, you can live a life where you're excited every day. You can live a life where you're not scared and expected for bad shit to happen to you. You can live a life where you go meet people who used to treat you like crap and all of a sudden they're doing you favors. That's how it works. Because life is only projecting, a movie back to you, the movie that you're running inside of yourself, inside of your mind. So if you're running a movie that says everybody loves me, I love myself, life just brings me so many things to love. All of a sudden, you're going to see people doing stuff for you. You're going to see circumstances, coming together for you because that's your dominant belief. That's your attitude about life and about yourself. And this is something, it's like I said, I have to say it all the time. It is so important. It is so important, especially if you have children. If you've got kids, they need to know how boss and valuable and magnificent and amazing they are. Do not tell your children what they can't do. If they come to you and they say they want to do something, let them do it. And if they fail, be there to pick them up and encourage them to do something that they're better at. That is the way that it needs to be done. Not criticizing your kids, telling your kids they ain't you know what, or making them believe that just because you couldn't do something, they can't do it. No, your children are not you. They're completely different people. They look to you for guidance, so you can either help them or fuck them up. But understand that, like, they're looking to you for support. And most importantly, you got to give that to yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, everybody underneath you, everybody in your house are likely going to adopt those same beliefs, and it's going to perpetuate a struggle after struggle after struggle, day after day. And the reason I'm cussing my ass off on this podcast, I'm tired of seeing that. I'm tired of seeing people just default to life that they have complete control over when it comes to creating a life that they want. You may not be able to control the circumstances, but you can control the thoughts. And I promise you, when you believe in yourself and you believe that life is loving you and helping you, even when stuff goes wrong, it's right. Even when it seems like everything's going to fall apart, all of a sudden it comes back together. Even when there's a big-ass problem staring you in the face, a solution presents itself. Multiple solutions. Because that's your belief. You always have to get back to where life is perfect. Life is loving you. You're loving yourself. You're prospering. You're winning, as Charlie Sheen used to say. That's the whole science behind that. I didn't even think about that, but if you think this man was creating shirts and memorabilia that says, I'm winning. I am, which means that is God. That is the entire everything. And he says, I'm winning. And then everybody else is pouring energy into the fact that says, I am winning, which is pouring energy to Charlie Sheen, which says that I am winning. And then what happens? He's winning at everything, right? I mean, his personal life is falling apart, but, at the same time, he was still winning. In his career, he couldn't lose. But it's because that mindset had been embedded within his subconscious. That was his belief, until it wasn't anymore and it all fell apart. But my thing is, aside from that, it doesn't need to fall apart. It can only get better. You can only get better. You have to discover. I'm just going to tell you this before I go. You have to discover a dominant belief about yourself that encompasses everything that you desire to happen. I'm going to give you an example. Mine is, my life is perfect. Everything works out perfectly for me. Everything works out in my highest favor. And so if you notice, I use perfect. And what perfect means, if you look up perfect on Google, the definition states that it contains all the desirable elements needed, wanted, that create the optimal situation. That's what perfection is. And that's why I say my life is perfect. And I write it down and I say it and I beat my chest and I make sure my subconscious mind grabs it. And you know what? My life is perfect. My life is perfect. I come up to people, they're always nice to me. They're always giving me a smile, whatever it is. If they don't do that, then they don't say anything, which kind of coincides with what I believe. If you can't say anything nice, why say anything at all? And that is what I reflect to life. That's what I project, and that's what life gives me back. So your thing, or homework, if you want to call it, or life work, because this is a rest of the life type of thing that you have here that you really want to dive into, is to find or embrace, if you got it already, that dominant belief about your life that is going to take your life to a next level. And instead of feeling like life is fucking you over, you'll feel like you have a life that you love. And that is the whole point, guys. That is the whole point of this podcast. Trust me. It works. Just buy into it. Believe it. Believe this thing about belief. If you don't take my word for it, look it up. Look at people's lives. Once again, take the analogy. People growing up in the same house, people going to the same schools, being taught the same stuff, yet one or two people become really, really successful and fulfilled. And the reason I say fulfilled is because fulfillment means happy. Not just success, but also happy and content. And then the other people just kind of straggle along. It's mindset. It's belief. It's the knowing that life is giving you all you need to live the way that you choose to. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. It has been a pleasure. We'll talk soon. Take care.